Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach podcast. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you. His name is Austin Page. He's the founder of GymFlo Coaching. He's a bodybuilder, a cyclist, a podcast co-host, and he also coaches people to break their self-limiting beliefs, build their mental toughness, and master their lives. Welcome to the podcast, Austin. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Such a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Thanks. Well, it's all you.
Yeah.
That's just about you. So it doesn't have
Oh,
anything.
for sure. For sure. I think of myself as just an average Joe.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm there right there with you. Like there's nothing special, right? We're
Yep.
just trying to make it work.
All
So
red-blooded.
exactly. So I always ask everyone at the start of my podcast to tell me their story. So you can start from wherever you want to start. I just like to hear how people got to where they are today.
Yeah. So for me, this story or my journey of flipping the switch per se happened in 2010, and it evolved and it sort of grew to newer levels over the years. But originally in 2010, I was in a real bad car wreck. I'm from a small town of Tappahannock, Virginia, nothing but farms, and I guess they had a Walmart. That's about the biggest thing that was happening in the town. So growing up through that town, I didn't really have much to get into, which isn't a great excuse. But as a younger guy, going through high school and college out there, I always found myself following the crowd, the mob, because I really didn't have any goals or aspirations or knew who I was, which many young guys don't, right? Like that's just a part of growing up and figuring things out. But I wanted to, I guess, be liked or be the guy because throughout my middle school and early years of high school, I went to private school down there because that's just where my parents wanted me to go. So that private school I went to only had like 30 or 40 people throughout the entire school, K through 12. So I didn't have any friends. I was just me, myself, and a skateboard for many years that I would just go skateboarding every evening by myself throughout town. And until I went to public school for my last 2 years of high school. And that's when I sort of realized I wanted to be the popular guy. I wanted to be known. I was new to, or back new to public school. And that's where things started to go downhill to where I was just always looking for Thursday night, where's the party, Friday night, Saturday night, and where's trouble, pretty much. That was my middle name, it seemed like, getting locked up and just caught up in stuff that wasn't serving me. And in 2010, I was at a party and decided, I guess, I wanted to get in my car and go home. And I don't remember leaving. I remember the party, but I don't remember leaving.
Oh,
Just people said Austin disappeared. And I tried to go home, and typical story where I made it maybe a mile away from my house and ran off the road. But fortunately, I didn't
wow.
hurt anybody. I didn't hit anybody. I just ran off this back road and flipped a couple times to where I ruptured my intestines and broke both my legs from the knees down. But I
Oh,
don't remember the
awful.
wreck either, which is very fortunate.
Right,
Uh,
right.
I woke up in the hospital and it just seemed like a dream or like a twilight zone to where they're like, "Hey, you've been in a wreck." I guess it was from the intoxication and just the trauma, the adrenaline, everything. I just seemed like a dream. And it wasn't until maybe a week or so later to when I was actually coherent enough to wake up and realize that it wasn't a dream. Both my legs were just stuck in straight casts, and I had a gaping hole in the middle of my stomach with a black wound vac, as they call it, that had sort of a hose sucking juice and infectious pus out of my stomach. Uh, Things fast forward from that moment, about 6 weeks in the ICU, to where I was moved to a rehabilitation center where I learned how to walk and do many things that we take for granted. And that's where the habit of building myself sort of planted seed at that rehab center. I lived at that rehabilitation center for about 2 months, and every morning, this is where a habit was built. My physical therapist, if it wasn't for them, I definitely wouldn't have made the efforts to better myself, or for sure push myself as hard as I did and build that habit. But every morning they'd meet me at my room, and this is when I was still bedbound. They would say, "Hey, hop your ass over in the wheelchair. We're going down to the gym." So every morning they'd make me before breakfast. I'd go down to the gym, wheel myself down there, and they would lock my wheelchair in place and give me some weights to do some curls, some overhead presses, get in the parallel bars and do dips out of my chair. And until I was weight bearing a few weeks later, to where I was able to start walking and going up and down the hallways and stuff and building leg strength back. But building myself up or having to do that tough thing every morning, that thing that I did not want to do, which was go to the gym, after losing all this weight and strength and confidence in myself and not really knowing what the future would hold for me. I think started to develop that mindset of, hey, it's on me to do the work. I've made the decisions that's gotten me to this point in my life. I need to start trying to maybe change the trajectory a little bit, which it wasn't a flip of a switch then. I still had plenty of growing and messing up still to touch that hot stove a couple times after this,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Did
But
you fight with the physical therapy people? Like, did you push back at the beginning?
no, I mean, I wasn't happy. I wasn't pleasant with them, but no, I'm typically,
But I
if
wondered
I had,
if you were a pain in the butt or if you were.
I mean, I probably gave them a little pushback, but no, typically, I'm typically the type if somebody gives me a nudge, I it it isn't always perfect like that. I can still have a fit here or there, but I remember back then, I realized it's something that I had to do.
Yeah,
They would not
back on
threaten
you.
me, but they would say, the quicker I get out of that bed, the quicker I can get home. So that
Yeah,
was holding over my head that I was like, all right,
that
let
was
me get the hell out of here.
motivation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened after that? You were in the rehab for 2 months, you said?
Yeah. I was living there for 2 months. And then finally they released me a couple weeks after walking and being weight bearing. And I realized that my lifestyle needed to change once I got out of there. And I started to make those changes by getting a job at a gym, a local gym there in Tappahannock. Because typically I was doing side work. I was doing irrigation before the wreck. I was doing some sheetrock work. I was just filling in spots wherever I could, not really having any true path. Just enough to make some beer money and blow it all on the weekends. So
And
nothing
that's how
good.
you got into that mess.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a front desk job at a gym because I fell in love with the discipline and the habit of building myself. Throughout that time in the rehab center, I realized how much it was really building me back up. I felt stronger daily. I felt better about myself daily, building confidence back in my body. And I realized a gym would come with a free membership, or a gym job would.
Hmm.
So took that. And over the months that I was there working, I learned from a ton of people and a ton of coaches that were there at that gym on what to do and other training, splits and whatnot, and started to evolve throughout my own training. And it, started off elementary, juvenile. I wanted to just be jacked. It became that point to where it was me, jacked, tan, juicy, which I still
Nice.
do. I still want to look a certain way, right? Who doesn't? They want
I
to look.
like that. Jacked, tanned, and juicy.
Look
Is that your
yeah.
slogan? That could be a
No,
slogan. I'm
no.
going to say
I
that to my
definitely
kids. If I say that I'm Jack Tan and juicy, my kids are going to crack up. So
they'll get it.
I'm gonna try that.
But no, I definitely ripped that from the internet. But through the process of building myself up over those years from 2010 to about 2013, to where I took that leap into training. And I wasn't certified at all at the time. I was working I moved back towards Richmond, which isn't Tappahannock, it's about 40 minutes away, Richmond, Virginia, and got a job or got a membership at a Gold's there. And I saw the trainers there. I was like, man, let me see if I can talk to them about getting a job. So I talked to the manager and he was like, hey, you're not certified, but I see the work you do in here. You know what you're doing. You look the part. Obviously, we've talked before this, and he was like, I'll take a chance on you. I'll hire you and give you 60 days to get certified on a probationary period. And if you're certified after that, we'll keep you on. So they took the chance on me. I got certified, and that's all she wrote for training. And like I mentioned, sort of before we hopped on the show, it took me the longest time of uh, developing my coaching from when I started personal training people to developing more of a coaching or a full encompassed mindset coaching that if we can build the mind, we can build the body type of deal.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think that is such a big missing piece, isn't it? When
God,
for physical training. And we've all been there. Like we've all wanted to change our diet and wanted to change our exercise routine and your brain is what always gets in the way.
yeah, and it's so subtle because we're always our brain. I think of it as this like there's I guess I can find a better way to say it. There's a subconscious or conscious, or what a mentor of mine has told me. There's a boss voice and there's a bitch voice.
Mm.
And when you can listen to one, the lower voice will it knows exactly what you want to hear. It knows exactly what you'll buy, hook, line, and sinker. It knows what you want to hear. oh,
That's
you've
the
had a long
problems,
day, or
right?
oh, you don't feel like it, it's okay, or oh, you got the kids, you got the whatever,
Right. Yeah.
that doesn't taste good right now, and we all fall victim to it, but it's
Sure.
learning to be able to lean into that boss voice, the one that thinks long term, the one that thinks of the new identity, that 2.0 version you want to be. And what the state of our life we're currently sitting in, whether we like it or not, is developed or built over the past 30, 60, 90 days, or shit a year. It
Right.
wasn't, we have to change our current ways to get to the next level.
Right, right. So how do you advise people start that? Like if you have somebody that's brand new, veterinarians struggle a lot with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, because our job is so emotional and there's so many facets to it that are scary. And so a lot of veterinarians come to me with a lot of self-doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome. So how would you start with somebody that's out of shape physically and even emotionally or mentally? Get back on that horse, and what do you see as the connection between the physical and the mental?
So, an easy way for me to explain it or break it down, and something I do with many of my clients when they jump on the team with me, is creating a personal brand book. Think of brands like Harley Davidson or any iconic brand. They have a rule book or a guidebook that they follow. This is what they do. This is what they look like. This is what they show up like. And this is what they don't do. This is what they don't stand for. Right.
Right,
And it doesn't have
right,
to be that strict, but having some type of like, hey, let me write out a list of things, the person I want to be, person I want to live like, show up like, the kind of money I want to make, what house
right,
I want to have. It could be broken down into that particular niche. But for the physical and health part, all right, this is the weight I'd like to be, or this is how I'd like to look. This is the size pants I'd like to wear. Whatever you want to put in there, it's your goals, right? But all right, well, what type of person that would have that? What would they do? What would that person I would admire? What type of actions would they take? Would they
right,
eat that? Would they skip that workout? Would they cut that corner? Would they not do it because they don't feel like it? That's a question. Again, we're all human. We're all red blooded. We're not perfect. I'm not. But a question that you should ask yourself is, what would a person I would, what would, I guess like the old saying of like WWJD, what would Jesus do type of thing? It's like, what
right.
implant whatever name you'd want in there. What would
Whatever,
so and
yeah,
so
that
do?
that person that ideal that you have for yourself.
Yeah, we all have a person we admire, or a couple people probably. What would that
Right,
person do? Do you think they're eating whatever they want, or you think they're holding the standard to something?
right.
Are they thinking long term, or are they in the short term emotion? And again, I don't want to sound face value like I'm some hard ass. I'm human. I bleed bread just like everybody.
Well, I talk about that a lot on the podcast is people think that if you're a coach or you're a trainer or you're an athlete or whatever it is that you are, that you have it figured out. And
Yeah,
and I try to impart on them that none of us do. Like we all are a work in progress.
of course. And I think one thing that holds people back is perfection, or like, especially, some of my clients, they joke with me, jokingly say, I'm Mr. Perfect. Austin's Mr. Perfect. And I'm not. I take imperfect action every day.
Right,
I'm not perfect, but I'm going to take action. I'm going to follow through to the best of my ability. Some days are rainy, some days are sunny, but
right,
it's taking that one step forward, 1% rule. Hey, if I can get a little bit better or make a little bit better decisions, or just not mess up today, I can take
right.
tomorrow off. Just
One
let me make
less,
it through
one
the.
less cookie, one less candy bar, one
Yep,
less skipping the gym, one more mile on your bike or whatever. Just little
a
baby steps.
hundred percent,
Yeah,
100%.
I love that. So where do you think that all those limiting beliefs come from with most people? Like you got strength through your accident, which could have gone the other way. Like you could have
Yeah,
been really poor me and the world is against me because you were a young guy and you went through a catastrophic thing.
I know, and I've talked to a few people about it when they say, "Man, I'm so sorry to hear it," but about my accident. And fortunately for me, the type of person I was, I'm hard headed. I needed something like that to flip the switch.
Wake
And
you up.
yeah, and I'm fortunate that I was able to learn through that, but I'm unfortunate, or not grateful that I had to go through that type of deal. But
Right.
uh, for the self limiting beliefs, if you haven't been through something of, catastrophe of something. You don't have to. What we need to do is following through on those little things that you don't think matter. It's those little details, sweating the details of the day that, like, oh, that one meal really isn't going to blow me off. But when I open the door, leave that door cracked open, that, like I mentioned earlier, that 1% rule, it starts to gain. You put a penny on a scale one day at a time. One penny on day one it's not going to tip the scale.
Right.
Every 2 days, you put another penny on there, that thing's going to start to tilt the other way.
Yeah.
And it's with all the actions and decisions that, being aligned with that person, that future self, the person you would admire. If we can, follow through on those things, one day at a time. It's earned daily, pretty much, that belief. And same thing with me. I have to earn it daily. I earn it daily through controlling the things that I can control. And that's the thing that I try and break down with my clients is, hey, we can earn contentment, self-worth, self-love, happiness daily by following through on the things that we can control, which are what we allow into our body, what we do with our body, who we listen to, what we react to, and so on and so forth. They're not the sort of external things that, this person said something, so it pissed me off, so I'm gonna eat whatever I want. I'm stressed now. All
Right.
those
Right.
outside factors that nobody's holding a gun to your head, right? Like we got to take a step back, breathe. Oh, that I'm not going to let that throw me off. I'm not going to make me lose my day for that person or that thing, which, again, stuff does happen. Shit sandwiches do land in our lap, but um,
For sure.
it, it's earned daily, and it's following through on those little things, like I said, within that rule book or that brand book for yourself, and sweating the details as much as you can, and not sweating it if it was a loss. That's okay. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said control the things you can control and take on the things that you want to take on. Because that's a big thing with us as vets. We have a lot of people in there with a lot of emotion, and we can either choose to take on that negative emotion from a client that's upset or grieving, or we can choose to let it go and
Yeah,
just, be empathetic to them, but not necessarily take it on for ourselves. So I love when you say, control the things that you can.
that's so tough. I wouldn't know where to go with that. I have three cats myself that we've
Oh,
had
see, you're an
taken.
animal lover, so
Oh
you can
yeah, huge.
understand that. Yeah.
And spent tons of money on one of my cats. I'm embarrassed to say how much money I've spent on him.
No, 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 no. We're veterinarians. You should be proud that
Well,
you
no, I,
spent that
I, I
money.
am, I am. No, I'm grateful that think that we did take the actions, but I don't know if many people would. But I love them. I love them to death. But I couldn't imagine having to deal with those scenarios or decisions that having to witness somebody having to make. I mean, I couldn't imagine. My wife's a nurse in the ICU, and I mean, she sees a lot of bad things happen daily too. And it's like, man,
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know if I could take the weight. I mean, I'm sure you adapt to it over time. You learn it. It's like a skill. But
Right.
at first, it'd probably crush me. I'd need a lot of release after something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. But it's almost that skill of bouncing back from failure.
Yeah, of
Because what we do isn't necessarily our failure, but sometimes things just don't go the way we want them to go. And
course.
so a lot of times we take that on as a failure. So what's your advice about that? Like if you have these failures in your day or your workout or even your mental, you know, health, what's the coach's advice for people to how to kind of let that go and start again?
Well, I mentioned earlier, tomorrow's a new day. You only lose if you quit, right? So like
Right.
we can show up again tomorrow. We're gonna have a wash here or there, and it's about uh keeping in mind, I guess, and it's something that I have to remind myself. There's a thing that another a mentor of mine that I worked with and coached with. He mentioned a lot. There's high frequency days and there's low frequency days, and you know there's going to be some days where it doesn't matter what you do, how much you follow through, and you check off the list, and but you're still going to feel like blah or feel like things aren't moving forward. But those are the days that like really build the result. It's not what you do and how great of a day it is on the sunny days. It's like, all right, can you still follow through and at least drag one foot through the mud on those rainy days and just finish it at least, as
Yeah.
best you can, whether it does have some failures in it, as long as you make it
Right.
through it and you got something done for yourself, whether it's, uh, I don't know what it would be for whatever goal is out there, but
Right.
there's going to be high frequency days and low frequency days, and that's everybody has them, right? Like high
Yeah,
energy days, low energy
it's
days.
kind of like the ups and downs of life, or
Yeah,
the good and the bad. And my father-in-law used to say that's life, when bad things would happen. And I think sometimes just accepting that as okay rather than
yeah,
fighting with it all the time.
I
Does
agree.
does the same thing apply to like your exercise and diet? You kind of touched on that a little bit, but um, if you're working towards a goal and you feel like it's not going the way you'd like it to go, like how do you get that mental toughness up?
So I was talking with a client of mine the other day, and I was drawing this. It's a success scale, and when you're unsure, you're jumping into the journey of weight loss or whatever the goal is with your physical fitness, your health. There's pretty much like you could put on a scale of like 100-day success scale, and once you start off that first maybe 14-day period, maybe a little bit more, give or take, you're just planting seeds without, let's say you're physically planting seeds in the ground.
Right.
Over 14, 21 days, you aren't seeing anything sprout yet. And you're like, am I doing it right? Like,
Yeah, like what's going on? How
like,
come I'm
what's
not
going on?
feeling better or looking better or dropping pounds or
But the thing is, with most programs or diets out there, for the most part, they all work as long as you follow through on them. Like, and you
right.
aren't deviating on the days when you don't feel like it as much as
Yeah.
possible. So
It's
as long as you continue to make it through that sort of seeding phase, eventually it starts to ramp up, and you'll start to see the sprouts or the fruits. Whether it's, oh, I'm a pant size down, okay, things are starting to pull into place. But I think a lot of people, they fall off in that 2 to 3 week phase for the most part, and they're like, I'm doing all this work, or I'm dieting, or whatever the case is, and they aren't
right.
seeing the results immediately. And anything great typically takes time, consistency, and intent. So
Right.
if you're lackluster or doing it half-assed or only doing it when you feel like it, yeah, your seeds are going to take a lot longer to sprout, or they may not sprout at all.
Yeah. The yeah buts.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to do that. Yeah, but my kids
yeah.
bother me, or yeah, but I don't have time, or yeah, but it's raining.
They, there's definitely, I hear that a lot. And yeah, buts. That's a good one. And I hear what ifs. What if I do it and blah blah blah, or don't get it, or something doesn't happen, or what if? And that's a lot of that can be fear based, and even if
Yes.
is more faith based. We if
Even
even
if,
if
yeah,
I'm
I
still
love
going to
that.
continue tomorrow, I'm still going to do it, even if I don't get the results today.
Even if my body hurts, or even if I
Yeah.
have a limp, or even if I,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
yeah,
Like it's just even if I don't see the results just yet, even if I'm still going to do it tomorrow because I know it's what I should do. It's different. It's especially if you're getting some type of plan or program from somebody that has the results, right? But
right, right.
you know, but your conscience knows what it should be doing, and it knows what you probably shouldn't be doing. What are anchors and what are propellers typically, and uh, as long as you can listen to that, and realize, is this what I should be doing? Going back to that question I asked earlier, is like, what would the person I would admire, what would they be doing right now?
Yeah,
Would they stick it out, or would they
yeah,
push through? Would they build that mental toughness, that grit?
right.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, do you have kind of a theory on the link between getting your body healthier, better nutrition, better physical health, and how that impacts your mental health? Or do you think that you have to get the mental stuff in place first? Can we do it at the same time? I mean, I kind of know what I think about that, but I want to hear what your thoughts on that are. Like, is it a mental
I
and a physical thing together?
I I, I believe it could go all three ways, honestly. But for me, from what I've seen, if you build, it's hard. If you build the body, the mind will follow suit. It's
Follow.
you don't
Mhm.
see somebody that's in shape and lazy or doesn't
Right,
feel. It takes one to have the other typically.
right.
So like I think the other one builds the other, vice versa. So I guess maybe I'm leaning more towards it takes both,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it would
I
be
mean,
both.
I kind of believe that because I think you could get your body in shape and still have a lot of self-doubt and
Yeah, yeah.
you
There's
know,
definitely a lot of people that still have that, you know.
right. But I do think that they relate in a lot of ways. Like I always feel better if I get on my bike and ride than if I
Oh yeah.
don't. Like if I
You
plunk
never
on in
feel
front
bad
of the TV or whatever, instead of going out and doing something, I don't feel as good.
for sure. You never feel bad after I mean, unless the day's been horrible, there's scenarios, but you never feel worse after a workout or after doing some type of self work, whether it's reading, eating what you're supposed to, doing that hard workout. You always feel a sense of relief or like a boost of energy typically after it. You only regret when you miss.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So because we both believe in coaching, like I life coach, you life coach and train, physical train,
Yep.
sell that to the people that are listening. Like why should they have people like us in their corner and hire us or at least listen to some advice free on this podcast or whatever to grow and change? Because some people
Well,
don't have that drive to want to change and grow.
for sure. Well,
What's good
comfort,
about
it's called growing pains for a reason, right? Like growth in any aspect, whether it's growth in your business, your veterinarian business, or in my
right?
business, or with your physical self. It's going to take a little pain, discomfort to grow. But I think one thing that I can mention to almost that coaching or at least creating the mindset behind it and getting a growth with that self improvement would be a better version of you will do anything you choose to do better.
Oh, yeah, I love that. So if you are better physically and mentally, you're going to be a better veterinarian, you're going to be a better parent, you're going to be a better spouse, you're going to be a better employee, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. Yeah, I love
You know,
that. It's so
because
true.
typically the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you're kind of like hit or miss on this, how do you expect to probably show up over there? You're probably hit or miss over there. And again,
Yes.
it's not perfection. There is a certain standard though where you can tell somebody that shows up, you're like, okay, that person probably takes care of business in the other fashion. They probably do, you
Right,
know.
right. Absolutely true. Yeah, I love that. So what did I not ask that I should ask?
Uh, I'm not sure. We kind of touched the whole journey of I guess of my story of how I've sort of developed into coaching,
Yeah.
um, and the mindset behind it. But no, I mean, I guess the thing that I can pretty much leave off with is something that I remind myself, and I have it here on the gym wall, and remind my clients daily is we're only as good as the example we set. So it doesn't matter what we talk about doing or what we say we're going to do. It's what are we doing? How are we showing up? Is what we're doing, is it inspiring others around us or is it pulling people back? Is it giving a bad example? That's the question, or that's the thing we need to keep in mind. It's only what we do. We're only as good as the example that we set.
Yeah, that's a really good thing for us as veterinarians to think about is the way it when you said that it was like, okay, the way we're showing up in the exam room for our clients and our patients is as good as it's going to be for them. Like that's our goal to show up well for them and
Yep.
they're going to be impacted accordingly. If we're not in a good mood or we're not feeling it or we're not putting our best selves out there, we're not going to do our best work.
100%.
Yeah. And then we're going to have more problems in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Tell me just a little bit before we start to wrap this up about the bodybuilding and the cycle century ride. Like you've done some pretty interesting things. Tell us a little bit about that just to
So
inspire people to set some big goals.
yeah, for sure. With bodybuilding sort of started off for me back in 2013 when I started coaching or personal training back then. And that's when I sort of competed. My first show was back then. And that's sort of when I went and started working out at that Gold's Gym. I met or had some mentors with in the gym training type of deal, not more so having a personal trainer myself, but it was just a group of guys that were always, I've always tend to surround myself with people that were bigger than me, stronger than me, faster than me. I just always loved the competition and liked to learn.
Right.
So I hung out with these two guys that were a few years older than me, but just decade already into working out training, and they were into bodybuilding as well. So it sort of rubbed off onto me, and I was like, man, you know what? I want to, jump my or dip my feet into it a little bit and see what that's all about. And I liked the fact that it gave me some structure, because a lot of people can go into the gym, which is nothing wrong with this, but they can go through the motions, just go in there, get on the treadmill, I just got my heart rate up for 15 minutes or did the full body circuit machines, which
Yeah,
again, nothing wrong with that. But
right. Nobody does.
having structure or a program to follow can really ramp up your intensity. It can give you purpose when you go into the gym. It makes you feel that much better because you can watch the progress
Right.
over,
Absolutely.
weeks or months. And not just even on the metrics, but literally in the mirror, you can see, oh man, things are changing, transforming. It's a really cool thing. And being able to control your body, I think a lot of people, they haven't had the experience to be able to do that and get that itch or that fire to be like, man, I can really transform myself, not only mentally, but physically. But competed in 2013. And I told myself then, I was like, I liked the process of bodybuilding, but I didn't really like the show of it, getting in the Speedo and tanning and all
Yeah.
that stuff. That was, I don't know why I didn't think about that until it happened the day of. I was like, oh
Then
man, I
you
got to
had
get
to do it. You're like, oh, now I got to get in front of people.
yeah, I got to get in front. And I picked this big show. It was like 1,500 people in the crowd. And
Wow.
I was like, man, fortunately, the lights are dark, so I can't really see faces and make eye contact. And the stage lights were so bright. So it felt somewhat better, but it was still something that it's not me, I guess.
Yeah.
And a few years later, I became friends with the guy who was also in that scene. And he bet me on a dare as the weirdest bet that he could make me do a bodybuilding competition as a vegan, which I'd never been vegan before. And I don't,
Interesting concept.
yeah, right. And he had always been vegan for most of his life until recently. I saw him recently; he's not anymore. But I did it. I went the whole process through it. It was like 16 or 18 weeks of dieting off of
Yeah.
just vegan
Off
food,
of,
fruit,
yeah.
rice,
Right.
vegetables, stuff like that. And actually turned out to be one of the best showings I've ever did, which was crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very interesting. But after that, I was definitely hung up the posing trunks, and I don't know. I enjoy the process of just building myself and doing that daily process of following through, and I guess real like I mentioned earlier, it's earned daily for me, or at least that's the way I see it. Contentment, self worth, self love. It's all developed through our self worth. And it doesn't have to be beating your body in the gym, but something that is developing your mind, your body, and exercise can be an outlet like that.
Right. Right. I love that so much. Well, tell people where they can find you if they want to learn more about you, if they want a personal trainer, if they're in your area. Can you
For
can you
sure.
train can you train over like the computer? Can you
Oh
do
yeah.
a
So
virtual training? I love that.
yeah, I just started pursuing that probably about 8 to 9 months ago, and have my own private app now to where I coach people online, and that's where
I
I've been
love it.
focusing a lot more attention.
Okay.
Just because I can only help so many people. I'm sure you get it. There's only so many hours in the day and so many patients
Right.
you can see. It's like, all
Right.
right, well, how do I
How do I
reach more people or
multiply
help more
this?
people? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm very active, very social on Instagram. I'm posting not hourly. I'm not living on it, but I post a lot on the behind the scenes throughout my stories, showing what works for me and what works for my clients, and
Okay.
I drop a lot of questions boxes. If you have any questions, reach out to me on there. But you can also sign up for coaching through my website, in person or online, through my app at www.gymflocoaching.com.
And it's GYMFLO.
Yes, no
If
W.
if somebody's just listening, but I'll put it in the show notes too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, this has been super fun to meet you and talk about all the things. And you've inspired me to get on my bike after I hang up this call.
Do it. Hopefully, it's beautiful where you're at. It's beautiful here in Virginia.
Right now it is. Yeah, it's pretty nice um,
Nice.
where I am. So, all right. Well, I really appreciate it. It was fun meeting you. I love what you're doing. I hope the listeners out there got some inspiration and motivation, and they're going to go out there and do better.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, I appreciate all the questions, Julie. It was an awesome time.
Yeah, it was fun. Have a beautiful week, everyone. This is Austin Page. So look him up and check out his story. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful week. Bye.